I'm Lou Brutus, very happy to be joined from her home in Detroit, Rock City, by Eva Marie of Eva Under Fire. Eva, it's good to see you. How are you?
What's up? Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Did you grow up in Detroit? Has that always been your home?
I was born in Detroit. I was raised in Lincoln Park, which is about 5 minutes outside the city. So yeah, we've always been, so it's affectionately called Downriver. So all of us bandmates are all Downriver rats. But yeah, we've been here our whole lives.
Growing up, did you all realize what a special place the Detroit area and the rest of Michigan, but particularly Detroit, how special it is for so many genres of music?
It wasn't till we really started to you know, pluck around ourselves and go and play in bars and different things. And then we started, there was an actual like scene in the Detroit, the shelter and St. Andrews and what was then the State Theater and now is Fillmore used to always host us little guys, and they'd throw 15 of us into these venues and bring all our friends for this party. And, so it was cool because I didn't realize that wasn't happening in other places. And I think that was very reminiscent of Detroit Rock City. I'd love to bring that back because it's not what we see now, but I have plans.
Yeah, like when you first started to break in, what was the scene like and how did you get into those first gigs? And, because again, there's been a long running music scene there, but it certainly had its ups and downs.
Yeah. I think I came in at a high point, honestly. Nu metal was just all the craze. And my buddies and I, I was always a singer and I have always loved singing. And so I was doing these, talent shows and things. And my friend in high school sidelined me and was like, "Hey, my buddy's band needs a singer." And I was so afraid everyone was going to call me a poser. I almost dipped out entirely and didn't think I was cool enough for rock music, but here we are. And I think it really was cool because a lot of promoters in the area were always, there wasn't a lot of bars that would let kids come play. So a lot of these venues were opening their doors for us kids to come play. So, and then, everybody had the giant X's on their hands, and it was just a really cool party. So I think I hit it at the right moment. Some of my very first show ever was upstairs at St. Andrews Hall.
Oh man, what a great place to do a first gig, such a historic place. And I mean, what was there a moment early on in life before obviously you do that first gig where you thought, not only does music mean something very important to me, but I think I can actually do this stuff?
Yeah. Well, there was a very pivotal moment. So a friend of mine knew someone else who worked for like the ticket box office, right? So we managed to weasel our way onto the first. I think it was just the Detroit date of the Warped Tour when it came through, and it was my senior year of high school. And we were like, oh, we're gonna get to play the local stage, right? Which was a bunch of flats pushed in a corner next to all the big bands like merchandise. So we get there and we're like, it's fine. This is not a big deal. We're gonna, what we didn't realize is that then people are crazy. The festival scene is amazing. They've been in line since 9 a.m. and anytime there's music that plays, people lose their minds. So we get up there and halfway through the first song, I look up and we're blocking the hallway. Like there's 400 people in front of us at a standstill for this high school band and no one knows our music. And I went, I looked and I said, "Hands up." And everybody went, "Yeah." And I was like, this is it. This is for me right here. I need to do it.
That story is making me miss Warped Tour more than I normally do, because that, there'd be like, 545 bands on 69 stages and you just didn't know where to go. You just kind of wandered around in a daze.
Chaos.
And got over. Now, I'm assuming you had went to Warped Show tours before that, right?
I had attended. Yeah. Maybe like once or twice. I mean, because I think at that point, like I said, I was a senior in high school. And I think I started going to shows when I was in like maybe 8th or 9th grade,
What was the sort of pecking order at school for music at that point? Because by the time I was in middle school, I had already become a terrible snob in terms of, I was judging people on the quality of their black concert t-shirts. Were people segmented by the bands they liked and the shirts they wore in school at that point for you too?
Absolutely. It was kind of part of the reason why I was like very intimidated to start, singing in rock music. And didn't feel that I belonged. And then on the other side of this, and it's funny, I was just on the Drinks with Johnny podcast. I was talking to Johnny from Avenged about this. And he was like, you thought you weren't cool enough for rock music, and then now come to find out it's just a bunch of nerds. Like, we're all just a bunch of just geeks and dorks and nerds and people that play, like video game weirdos that all wound up with a musical affinity, and I was like, that's so true, but that's what it is. And that's why I feel like it's so fun for me now. I'm glad I didn't allow it to deter me, because rock music and rock fans and rock artists are some of the coolest people I've ever met in my life.
I always kid that these interview segments I do are nothing more than music geeks talking about music geek shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, like band t-shirts, right? Like, people don't understand there's a hierarchy. Like, that's a serious business. And I had to pay it so serious that so I mentioned I didn't come onto the scene until nu metal, right? So I'm not classically trained and things like that to play. So whereas my bandmates started picking up the guitars and picking up their, and getting on the drums, behind the drums, very influenced by Metallica, Zeppelin, some of the greats. I grew up on that music, but it was more my parents' music, so like I never really felt it was mine. So before I bought t-shirts to go with these bands, I listened to entire discographies to like know what ones I liked, which ones I did. Like, I can't wear a Misfits t-shirt. I can't do it because I can't get on board with any of that. Stones, absolutely. I've got plenty of Stones and Metallica t-shirts, but like, it's important. It's so important that you go and you listen to what it is, because people will ask you out here.
So were you much of a concert goer, other than, you mentioned some errant Warped tours? Were you much of a concert goer? And if so, how has your perception of performances changed as you're trying to do this yourself? Because it not only becomes an enjoyment thing for music, it also becomes sort of a learning center for you to watch and pick up pointers.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective has changed drastically. We came up, like all of us in our band, we have a very old school story. I mean, my rhythm guitar player and my bass player have known each other since kindergarten, and they've been playing, and all of us found each other playing in different projects. So we all went to concerts because all our friends were playing in bands. But these concerts were like bar gigs, so we'd go, and that was how we usually would enjoy live music. And then, of course, whenever your favorite band would come through, or I think some of my first concerts were like Three Doors Down at Clutch Cargo's, and there was these one-offs, but my very first concert ever was, I'll just be transparent, Britney Spears, Free Britney, at
nothing to be ashamed, nothing to be ashamed of.
She's an icon, right? Yeah. So like, yeah, and that's kind of where I was like, okay, so I've seen this at a massive scale, and now I'm in the bar scene, and it was fun. But yeah, playing to a bar full of people and trying to grab everyone's attention away from the pool tables and the game that's on the TV is very different than playing opening for Hailstorm at an amphitheater. I was shook. But that high and that vibe is still there, because I noticed that if I pay attention to an amphitheater crowd the same way that I would pay attention to someone standing in front of me at a bar show, they eat it up. And it's just, the energy and the vibe is just so incredible, because they love to be part of it. They all just want to be part of the rock show. It doesn't really matter where you're sitting or what side of the stage you're on. Like, we're all there to do this thing called rock music and to participate in this concert. And it's more than just the music or the entertainment value. It's very many times rock is so raw and so real, and that's what people gravitate to. So you have these like very honest connections, whether it's a massive audience or a bar gig. I've always loved that.
When you get locked in on stage at a gig of any kind, amphitheater or bar, does the time go like that for you? Does the set just pass in seemingly mere moments?
It does, especially because in the bar scenes, we'd probably play like an hour set. We've got a lot of friends that would show up to the shows at, in our hometown, so we could play longer. And then we get on these bigger tours, and it's like half hour, and we're like, huh, what? how many songs is that? Like, it's just like boom and over, but I guess in some ways we have learned to sort of capitalize on the fact that like we can get up there and just like knock it out, and it's just this explosion and then gone. And then people are like, who was that? And where do I get where are they going to be? So like it's fun to kind of just be like boop and walk away.
I've seen that before with opening bands where a 30 or 35-minute set works to their advantage because you're just like, holy shit, I got to see that again,
Yeah, that's it. All killer, no filler. Yep.
So let's change the subject matter a little bit, if I may. So you've got this rock and roll life and this burgeoning career as you're young. Meanwhile, parallel to this, you become a psychotherapist, which to me doesn't sound like the easiest thing to do in the world, particularly while you're trying to do gigs and band rehearsals and stuff. So if you would be so kind, tell me about that aspect of your life.
Man, I had parents that were always in my corner about like make sure that you do what is going to be fulfilling to you. And so, but be careful about, putting all your eggs in one basket and these types of things. So I kind of took that and ran with it. I mean, I wanted connection, meaningful connection with other humans. However I could get that, I wanted to make a career and be able to do that. And I said, well, in music, I can do that in a massive scale because I know how much rock and roll means to me and to, the people that I've played to. And so, you can connect in a way where hundreds of people are in one room together. And then psychotherapy is meaningful connection one-on-one. And then it was kind of funny because I love to be there with people in those moments. I feel like it's fulfilling to me and that purposeful to me to be able to be helpful. So I feel like that's my space in psychotherapy as a therapist. And then in rock music, I feel like that's my therapy. So then it became this whole like balancing act because I needed both. And I was like, I don't know which one of these is going to work out, but we'll see, I keep trucking along. And it took a lot of rearranging and different things of schedules to try to figure out how to get that done over the years. And then the universe laughed at me because in 2018, I was offered a record deal and I got my master's degree. So the universe was like, haha, you get both. Good luck. Figure it out.
How did the people in your educational half of your life and the sort of professional side of your life, how did they deal with the fact that, you're this girl in front of this awesome rock band?
So I specialize in humanistic psychology, and that just basically means that we as therapists understand that we're a human being in the room and that also affects what's happening and that we honor this connection and we meet people where they are. So it's very different than like a very tactical approach, right? It's a very kumbaya sort of approach. And everyone in my program reflects that. Like my very first supervisor is also a giant Journey fan and plays guitar. And that's my clinical world, you know what I'm saying? So like that's why I started to really believe that this thing could happen. And I was scared it would be in conflict, because being a public figure in two separate spaces, you're not really sure what that's going to do. And ethically, that's a problem for me. So I'm not taking new clients now because other things have gotten busier in music, but it has actually just created this beautiful marriage of the two things that I love. And so I wouldn't take it back or trade it for the world.
Forgive my ignorance, but have you ever covered the Ramones classic Psychotherapy?
No,
Do you know
no,
the
but
song?
that's hilarious. Yeah, I'd totally forgotten that they had a song that was like psychotherapy involved. What? No,
You've
I
got to
gotta
do
check
it.
it out now.
Yeah, you've got it. And plus, it's a Ramones song. It's 2 minutes long. How hard?
Right.
So
Right.
you know what? As I think about your life as a psychotherapist, and then look at the fact you have an album called "Love, Drugs, and Misery." I'm not sure if that's good for a psychotherapist to have an album called that, or is it bad, or is it somewhere in the middle?
As a psychotherapist, we talk a lot about drugs and addiction and addictive behavior. And so that's one of the fields that I specialize in is grief, anxiety, and addiction. But that's also because not just of my clinical training, but of my personal walk. I have a lot of that in my family. And so it was very funny to me, I guess from my personal experience, the lens that I see that title through was different. I didn't realize that that was like an abrasive title, like an edgy title, until we started going and selling t-shirts at our shows, and parents were like, oh, I don't know if my kids should wear a shirt that's got love, drugs, and misery on it. And I was like, I guess you're right, it's an anti-drug message, just so you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But that's kind of like, I was like, wow, this is still taboo to talk about, and very much so a topic that a lot of people don't know what to do with when it's right in front of them. And so I was kind of glad and proud of the fact that our upcoming album is going to face that, because it wasn't intentional. It was literally just me describing the themes that you will see lyrically on the record. And that I felt like it was straightforward. It's not poetic, it's not flowery, and it's not meant to be. It's very intentional, very blunt, and I feel like that bluntness of love, drugs, and misery kind of makes people look at it differently. And I didn't realize it would have that effect, but in seeing it now, I'm really excited to see what people will think of it.
Yeah, I thought it was an incredibly compelling title, and it certainly is apropos for the album and the band on a number of different levels. I mean, I certainly got it, but it's also like, a bit of a poke with a stick with a title like that, as you found out. So
Yeah, thank you. And the reason why I named it that too, I kind of came up with it used to be drug, sex, and rock and roll, right? And I feel like love, drugs, and misery is what comes after that generation. Because the drug, sex, and rock and roll, like my parents they're very much a burnout story and high school lovers. And we have a song on the record called Unstoppable, and it details stealing a red Corvette. My dad used to go steal his sister's red Corvette and go pick up my mom for joy rides. So this is their story that I'm telling a little bit, but I'm also telling about how it affected me and impacted my brother. And I'm the only one in my immediate family without a substance abuse disorder. Like things get messy, things get weird and go sideways. And people need to understand that type of lifestyle had a fallout, had repercussions for those that came afterwards. And so that's kind of where I was like, that sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I'm like, it was like a very powerful 3-word, very descriptive, lifestyle. And I wanted that for the record, but it was kind of like, so it's my own iteration of that.
were your parents always upfront about what their lives were like before the family came along, or did you have to sort of pull it out of them?
No, and I love them for this. Honestly, they were very transparent, and they never raised my brother and I to like stick our head in the sand about things. And they so and and to be fair, it interrupted so many things from an early stage in our lives that like there's no way we couldn't have known. So I think that unfortunately, as things progressed, it got worse before it got better. Thankfully, we are now at the got better stage. Rest in peace, pops. But my dad didn't make it out, but my mother did. My father's been gone for about as long as my mom's been clean. So it's a very strange perspective that I think I have from all of that. And Heroin is another song that's on the record, and it's got this like kind of juxtaposition, being the eldest daughter of the family. I really felt that responsibility to try to save them from this their stuff, and I can't do that, but also the straight up the problem was heroin. That was, that is the drug that was the demise. And so I had this opportunity to write, and as I'm penning it, bless the souls of all of my team, because my bandmates and our producers, like as I'm like Niagara Falls penning the lyrics to this in the basement, we're writing, and they're like texting from upstairs. They just gave me my space, like left me with the tissue box and gave me my space, and they were texting each other, let me know when it's safe to come back down, I don't want to interrupt her process, but is she okay? So they just let me have my thing. And I think it was I think that what we've all contributed to this project is and in just a massive way, this is a very much an album that's got a lot of emotional roller coaster.
I've asked this question before, but I think it seems especially important to this conversation we're having now, but why is it that it is often the most unpleasant and difficult things in life that make for the best art?
Mm. 'Cause you have to get it out, I think, you know? Like when you go through something as a person, anything that you requires you to have some level of like catharsis because it's not going away and you can't change it and you can't fix it. And so in therapy, we call it sit in the suck because it
Say that again.
just
What's it called?
sitting in the suck. Like it just sucks the
Yeah.
whole situation. And then you can't move and you can't do anything about it. It's not like you can just breeze through it because then you're avoidant. It's not like you can change it because we don't have a time machine. So I think when you get into those positions in life, music can be that for you because it tells the story. And when you are the artist that can tell it, it's very powerful to be able to get it out there. So I'm emotional every time we play live and I see my front row singing that song because to date, it's been released, but it's not been a focus track. And so for them, it's a little bit of a deep, like a fan favorite, and I think it's because a lot of people get it. And so when that resonates with our audience and the crowd is singing it back to me, there's nothing in the world I'm more grateful for.
Out of horrible things can come wonderful things sometimes.
Mm.
Life and art are strange.
It's a wild ride, man. Truly, truly. And this is what a wild time that we've been through, even just looking back at what the world what happened to the world and what happened to music and the landscape of being, now touring is back, and we never knew that it could be gone. But like it was for a long time. And it just I see it now when we're back in that rock show environment. I don't care if it's the person at the door or the first one through the gate or any of the people on stage, all the crew, I mean, just smiles ear to ear. We're so glad to be back.
Yeah, and that's one thing I felt when things kind of started to get back to normal last year. Then it kind of went sideways again, but now it seems about right. It's not only the band performances and the music I missed. I just missed being around other people to whom music is really important. They're the types of people I tend to like spending time with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I told them. We get up there and we preach our little sermon, but it's like a, one sentence type of deal because usually you only got like 30 minutes when we're opening, right? But I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, they didn't know. The world wasn't aware of what happened to the rock community. I think rock specifically because it's such a raw and real type of space to be in with other humans that, like you said, it's very meaningful for them. You get other genres, I think you get a little bit maybe more passing fans, not in rock and roll. Not in rock and roll. Then people are heart and soul. They breathe concert life, and they didn't know what it was going to do to people when we couldn't be together like that anymore. But it was like family was estranged, and now we're all back.
Why do you suppose your song Blow has resonated so well with people?
I think for so long we've had to deal with that sit in the suck moment, and it was so dark. We just needed something fun, maybe, because it is just a bouncy track. It's a feisty track, you know what I mean? And I think that even the lyrical content, right? I'm about to blow, I'm about to lose it, there's like that attitude and it has a little bit of that swagger to it, but it's straight up bounce. Like when people can just like, I mean, your head might fall off, his head bang to that one, bada, bada, bada. I think it's just that people needed to just get out there and take their brain out for a minute and have a good time with a fun song and a banger that's got a little bit of attitude and swagger and bite to it. I mean, who doesn't have a chip on their shoulder about the things that we all just went through, So I think it really unexpectedly, it speaks to that, I feel like.
So how does the song and how do you end up in the Retaliators?
Oh, that's such a good story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So,
hold on. I'm gonna sip my coffee because I want to sit
yeah,
back and
yep.
enjoy this one.
Cheers.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I think they kind of had this movie that they were going to do, and that we were new to the label, and so they had ideas about who they were going to want for this part to be involved in the film. Well, somebody couldn't do it, and so they were, my manager was like, well, I got this other girl, she can do it. And I was like, I volunteer as tribute, right? And my friends were dying laughing at me because I'm such a chicken. I don't do scary movies. And they're like, you're gonna go be in one? Are you gonna make it? Like, are you gonna be okay? I'm like, I don't know what this is happening, but I have to go. And Jacoby Shaddix is gonna be on set, So I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm not gonna do this. So I get on set. And Jacoby is a wonderful human. After 13 and a half hours in prosthetic makeup, this man is like scrubbing and scraping all of the gore off of his face as he's like, hey, haven't met you before. Heard you guys got a new album coming out. He's like chatting me up. I'm like, you're amazing. So, I vibed so well with everybody on set. I had such an amazing time. It was my first time on a professional film set. That later on in the filming process, another opportunity opened, and they were like, hey, listen, we'd like to pivot and just offer you the full opening scene. It's like, I'm a mile from DTW. Let's do this. I can be on a plane in like an hour. So fly me back out to set. We did a whole different thing in that whole opening scene. Have you seen the movie yet?
I have not, no.
Okay, you need to see the movie, because when you do, you'll understand why I want a trophy, because I feel like in a scary movie, the position that I'm in is like worthy of, it's like the one thing that everybody's waiting for, right? Okay, I'll just tell you, it's the first one to kick the bucket, right? I was the first one to die. So
that's what I kind of figured. Yeah.
I want a trophy because if I get a trophy for first one to die, it was amazing.
People don't watch these movies for happy endings. So
no, exactly. They're really watching a scary movie going, okay, who's the first to bite it? And it's me. Which was super fun because it was a stunt that I was able to do. So they like had the stunt thing all like, I did my own stunt, and I was like wrapped up in an ankle, like the tether and stuff like that, and it drug me, and it was so fun. Anyway, you have to see the movie because you'll understand why it was so fun for me.
Oh no, I was going to ask about Jacoby on a movie set. My understanding of film sets is mostly gleaned from conversations through the years with Rob Zombie, who says, listen, I love making movies, but it's the most boring process to be around. He said it's the worst. And I can't imagine Jacoby Shaddix locked into a set someplace for 13 hours, because that guy, he's a live wire. He's like a force of nature. He must have been bouncing off the trailers.
Yeah, maybe because my interactions with him were brief, and I was like a kid in a candy store because it's the first time I've seen all this, right? Yeah. So like my experience is probably not the lens that you want to take. Even Michael Lombardi, like I kept showing up, and he's like, don't you need to like sleep or sit somewhere? And I'm like, no, I want to see all of this, but I kind of explained it to him too. I'm like, this is the first time I've seen any of this. This is the first time I'm being a part of any of this. And he was like, I guess that's true. Like for someone like Rob Zombie, who's done film for so long, and like he's been so involved, and like he understands kind of like the probably the darker side of producing things and all of that too, about like semantics and how things can maybe be stressful at times, and you got to get certain takes of things take hours and hours. But I'm also the person at the music video shoots that's always having a good time as well, and some of those can run late too. So I think it's just something that I have a good time with. And I've never been one in the driver's seat though, either, I don't handle the problems on set. So there's that, right? So I think that colors your experience by a lot. But yeah, so then we fast forward through the filming process and things like that. And there's so many hiccups and bumps in the road due to what was happening in the world, because they were wrapping as the pandemic hit. So as we're sitting, with nothing happening because of, the world shutting down, our label was like, hey, we're going to float this over to Ice Nine Kills and see if he wants to jump on the song. And I was like, you're going to see if Spencer wants to jump on? Like, we're new here. He doesn't even know who we are. I said, but he's in the Retaliators movie. And that's how I made the connection. I was like, this could be really cool. I was like, I don't know. We'll see what he says. We'll see what he says. And I was just kind of hopeful, optimistic, right? Not only did he come back and he was like, this is a great hook. I love this. This is cool. I'd love to hop on the track. He also came back with, and you know how horror buff Spencer is and the guys in Ice Nine Kill are, right? He was like, we should write the second verse, his part, according to my character in the film. And I was like, done. This is amazing. So it tied it so well into being on the soundtrack and all of that stuff. I think they knew, the label knew that they wanted that song to be the single, and that they wanted the single to be a part of the soundtrack. And because I was saying it's a feisty, fun song, I wasn't really sure how it would fit in a scary movie. And then they sent me the treatment plan for the music video and how Spencer's part was going to get in there. And I was like, this is way cooler than I could have like ever envisioned this song, you know? So it was a really fun ride, I think, for me. And the end result's just killer, pun intended.
It seems really ironic after speaking to you about films, because obviously you're not a big film buff. And here you're on this track with Spencer. You're like the anti-Spencer Chaldemus when it comes to films and horror movies. Then, you know, it's like, because that guy, he's like a walking encyclopedia of film. He's great to talk to music about, and then he starts going off on film, and the next thing you know, it's 2 hours later, and you've learned a lot from him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's so passionate about it, right? And he's like made it his business to know, you know, and to get all of the detail. I love people like that, man. They're definitely a different breed than I am, because like all of that, like pop culture and everything that about that song and what the environment was like back then. I mean, like you said, encyclopedia of knowledge on this stuff, right? I will never know who it's by or what it's called, but I will know every lyric of every song all the time. Like, I'm like, oh, I know that song, you know, but you have to sing it to me in order for me to know. So it's definitely a different perspective. I just don't think I've ever been a person that like absorbs, you know, all the facts about it like that. But I've picked up things along the way. You're right. I'm definitely kind of like the rainbows and butterflies to the you know, otherwise Spencer Charnas, like, you know, Gore Fest.
Blood gorged.
Yeah. Yeah, that is Spencer Charnas. So, but I think it worked beautifully, you know. And it's a really cool ride. So, and we appreciate so much all the love that Blow has been getting, you know, all the radio support has been just incredible. And like so many people are just like, they're running up this song. And I'm like, this is killer. I thought it would go well. I didn't know it was going to be like this though.
What was there, by the way, was there any sort of red carpet premiere for this thing?
There was. It was actually held at the Chinese Theater in LA, and I was on tour. No, I couldn't go because we were, I know, yeah, we were on the road at that time. So but I was able to attend one of the film festival premieres. I went to the Santa Fe Film Festival, and that was really fun, you know, and it was cool to me too to understand that in the film world, in the independent film world, that certain things kind of look much like we see in music, where there's like smaller events and bigger events, and some are more important than others, and some you've got these like all stars studded, you know, red carpet, like the one that was held in you know, Hollywood, and then you know, in podunk nowhere Santa Fe, it's like just the diehards, you know, and so I hung out with the diehard crew, which was great.
You know, I have to ask you one last thing. You're used to seeing yourself on screens. You've done videos, you're on camera a lot, but is it different when you go see yourself in a major motion picture on a large screen?
Yeah, it was. That was, I went to the premiere of the box office premiere, and it was at my hometown theater. I've seen almost every movie that I've been to the movies to go and see. I went to that theater to see, and then now it's my face on that screen. Crazy.
Is it weird? Is it weird? Do you recognize yourself under circumstances like that? And the reason I bring it up is many times you take a picture of a person and they look at the picture and they go, oh, do I really look like that? And then when it's video or film, it's even more jarring. And then on the big screen, I can't even imagine what that might be like.
I think it was more the gravity of the moment than not being able to recognize myself. Because I mean, giving me the full opening scene as Lombardi did, which was incredible. I think you know, see quite a bit of my mug It's very obviously me. And I, like you said, I'm on camera quite a bit, and which is fun for me. You know, it's a cool thing. And so I've never really been camera shy though either. And so maybe some of that comes from that person's perspective or their temperament. You know, just like them personally, like what they look like on film or on camera. Um, but I think that more so the gravity of the moment was really hitting me when I was sitting in my hometown theater going, holy crap, that's me on the screen. And
Did you point at yourself like Leonardo DiCaprio in in the last Tarantino film? Like, oh, there I am, there I am.
no, because literally it opens and I'm like one of the first things that you see. So like I didn't even have to do that. I just, I let the scene play out. And then afterwards I was like, well, that's it, folks. That was the premiere. Everybody
Thanks for coming.
like I was like 30 of my, we were rolling like 30 deep to our freaking theater with a whole bunch of family and friends of ours and stuff like that. So we were all clapping after I died.
Did you get to keep any costumes, any props, or a vial of fake blood or something from the set?
Yeah. So I mentioned I was to set 2 different times, and so the part that made it in the film was the second time that I was out to set. But the first time that I was out to set was very like bloody and like crazy, and we also filmed the music video for Blow at the Retaliators set location, and so I have the shirt that I wore from that, so it's all bloodied and gored and ripped up. And then I've got, of course, Retaliators swag, which is cool. So I will affectionately be wearing my t-shirt. And if anybody else wants to grill me about what t-shirt is that, blah, blah, what band is that, right? When we talked about band t-shirts and hierarchy, and be like, look, I'm in this movie. You need to go see it.
Hey, somebody walks up to you, Retaliators, can you name 6 of their songs? Huh?
Yeah, one of them's mine.
That's right. Well, listen, Eva, it's been great speaking to you. Congratulations on everything. The record is really, it's a bit tough to get through at times, not because the quality isn't good, just because the emotional weight of it can really kind of hit hard. But it's a great piece of work, and I can't wait to see you get offed in the movie. So congratulations on the Retaliators too. Can't wait to see you die.
You guys should. It's a fun time to watch me bite it. Trust me. And doing that stunt was amazing. So thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate the awesome opportunity to come here and talk about all the stuff that we've got. It's so exciting. So it's great to see you.